Connecting. All right. Oh, fell off. Perfect timing. Welcome to Midnight Movie Talk on the Movie Addiction Podcast. Starting late tonight, about a half hour behind schedule, but we're getting to it. That's the joys of having a sick pregnant wife and a sick 3.5-year-old maniac and a relatively sick 1.5-year-old as well. Doesn't matter how close I am to getting ready to go live. If there's a vomit mess, I'm obviously called in to clean that up and get the kid back to sleep. So yes, basically it's been a very eventful night in my house tonight, and I'm happy that I can now push that out of the way a little bit. I can now get to talking about movies in the comfort of my garage, heated by this little this little space heater. So let's get right into it. I had a feeling this was going to be a big movie news week just because of the fact that we've got the biggest blockbuster of the year, in my opinion, coming out this week. The discussion around film in general is going to bleed over into other areas. So even though a lot of people are talking about Spider-Man, just the overall energy around Spider-Man is getting people excited and making them talk about film in general and specifically blockbusters and things like that. And so a lot of times studios use that as an opportunity to cash in, make some big announcements, drop some trailers, because they know that there's buzz around just the idea of movies. And everything's a fucking hot mess tonight. But anyways, yeah, so I had a feeling we were going to get some trailers and we were going to get some announcements. I haven't got too many big announcements, but we did get, obviously, a big trailer today. That's going to be the first thing we talk about. But it's not even the news or the announcements. Like I mentioned, just overall discussion around film. There's going to be a lot of subjects that come out of that basically the conversation about it turns into the news stories. That's what happens with social media, specifically Twitter. And so 3 of the biggest stories today are basically just the fact that people were talking about something on Twitter. Nothing specifically happened, except for in the case of Harry Potter, which, as I mentioned, we'll start with that. Nothing in the other films actually had any new information come out. Spider-Man's premiering tonight, but there hasn't been any other announcements or a new trailer or anything like that. I actually think there was a little clip that came out yesterday or the day before. But we just got people excited about the movie, and so that's what they're talking about. As you saw from the heading, the 3 movies that were lighting the internet on fire today was Black Panther, Spider-Man, and Harry Potter, and all for their own individual reasons. But I will talk about Harry Potter first because that was by far the most talked about subject for multiple reasons. It was trending under 4 different subjects. Johnny Depp was trending, Harry Potter was trending, J.K. Rowling was trending, and Fantastic Beasts. Of course, this whole conversation related back to the release of the Fantastic Beasts trailer. For the most part, there's a little more to that that I'll get into. I didn't watch the trailer, to be honest with you. I didn't even see the last Fantastic Beasts movie. I saw the first one, and I remember liking it, and I was a big fan of Harry Potter growing up, but I haven't gotten around to watching this yet. I imagine it'll be in front of Spider-Man in a couple of days when I go to see that. There's just a quick overview of the trailer and just everything that they know so far about this movie. This is from MovieWeb. Fantastic Beasts, The Secrets of Dumbledore. Cast, plot, and everything else we know. With the release of the long-awaited trailer, here's everything we know about Fantastic Beasts, The Secrets of Dumbledore. The road to Fantastic Beasts 3 has had its turbulent moments in production, but it was nonetheless determined to happen. The 3rd movie of the ongoing Harry Potter prequel spin-off series released its first and long-awaited trailer, promising a magical return to the beloved wizarding world. Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore seems to pick up right where Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald ends and hints at an all-out war between wizards and muggles. Warner Bros. Has openly taken the disappointment that met Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald fans, I think they missed a word there, into account after it didn't perform as well as the first film had. In 2019, Warner Bros. CEO said or made note that Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling had been working on the script and that the studio was going to get it right when approaching Fantastic Beasts 3. In fact, former Harry Potter screenwriter Steve Kloves assisted Rowling in writing the highly anticipated threequel. So just break down parts of that statement. Obviously, the second one didn't do as well because the first one people were going to go see because it's a new Harry Potter movie. That was at one point in time the most profitable franchise in history, having only had 8 movies, I think it was, until the MCU and Star Wars came back and started pushing more movies. Then I think it got bumped down a little bit. It might have been behind James Bond. Actually, it might have been second place, but James Bond, I think at the time, had like 18 movies, so it was still pretty close, but I want to say it was the top movie at the time. Anyway, so going back into that world, you're going to have a lot of excitement anyways. Then it depends on how people feel about that movie if they're going to continue going to this new franchise. It's very similar in my mind to Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. That first movie is going to do really well just because people are excited to get back into the world. But if you don't nail that, it's hard to squeeze a trilogy out, which is interesting that that's what they keep trying to do. But there's other reasons why this franchise, really this new franchise, why this movie specifically have been such hot topics of conversation. And so we'll start with Johnny Depp, who played Grindelwald in the last movie. He has been recast in this latest movie after some allegations. I think that's why he was taken out, because fans and everybody was super upset with him at a certain point in time. Then more things started to come out as though kind of proving that the allegations were more than likely not accurate. In fact, there's been a lot of court proceedings and lawsuits and everything going over this. It's all, relating to the actor's divorce from Amber Heard. They got real messy, and there was a lot of shit talking back and forth, but she really dragged him through the mud, and then it turned out that, the roles might have actually been reversed, and she hasn't seemed to be punished as much, and so that's got a lot of fans talking. She was fired from Aquaman 2 for a little bit, but then they brought her back on. I think that's how that happened, and so that was why the words Johnny Depp were trending, is because not that people don't love Mads Mikkelsen, but they wanted to see Johnny Depp. They loved him in this role in the last movie. The few people that did go see that movie, because like I said in that article there, it did not make as much as the first one. And I explained why I thought why. But a lot of people did like it anyways, and Johnny Depp's a good reason for that. He's one of the best character actors out there. In history. It's him, Robin Williams, Tom Hanks. There's a couple that just, Jim Carrey, just take on these cartoony character roles, and it really works. I mean, he's done everything from Captain Jack to Whitey Bulger, and even the movies that sucked, on a Universal kind of people tend to agree that the movies weren't the best, like The Lone Ranger. It was still fun to see him in that performance, and he was able to get away with that, which is interesting too, although that was a little bit before everybody got super crazy. I don't want to get too off track talking about that, but yeah, there are still a lot of people that hate him because they still hung on to the allegations regardless of the new information that's come out. And then there's other people that think he should have gotten redemption. And I remember when the Johnny Depp thing happened, one of my favorite groups is the Hollywood Vampires. And I went to see them in Denver right around the time that a lot of this stuff was going out. And I actually got lost for a little bit in downtown Denver because I was blasted trying to walk to get to this concert. And there was like 2 or 3 alleys, like streets kind of leading right towards the venue, and I was walking down one of those, and there was these protesters that were scaring people away, like not aggressively or anything, but it was just kind of like, you don't want to walk by this lady because then you're going to have to talk to her and she's going to tell you how much of a piece of shit you are. And so I was walking down this alley. I could see the venue right there, or this side street, and this big giant protester just stepped out in front of me with this giant sign that said Johnny Depp beats women, and just kind of looked at me. And so I turned around thinking, okay, I got to find another way to get here, because I did not want to have to risk getting eaten by this lady or something. And I was blasted, so that didn't work. I ended up making it to the show on time, which was great. But the fact is, this literally resulted in people picketing outside of his band's concerts. So this wasn't just like a normal thing, because what he was accused of doing, beating up his wife amongst other things, that obviously people didn't like that, you know, for obvious reasons. But then, like I said, as you waited, more stuff came out about it, which brings me back to like what I was talking about yesterday with the Ansel Elgort thing. You have to wait and see where these go, because you don't always get the full story just from the one side that comes out originally. So Johnny Depp was the second reason. As I said, this trailer coming out was a big topic of conversation. That's why Fantastic Beasts was trending. That got people talking about Johnny Depp, so Johnny Depp was trending. Harry Potter was trending, naturally, because people were talking about both of those subjects, all relating back to this movie. And then the fourth Harry Potter connection that was trending on Twitter for the majority of the day was J.K. Rowling, who's obviously the author and creator. And you'd think, oh, people are talking about her because they're talking about Harry Potter, so it goes hand in hand. When there's, Marvel conversations happening, it's not odd that Stan Lee would be trending with that. But that's not why. And this is also, it circles back and makes people talk about all those other 3 listed tags, because now they're discussing why they can't like Harry Potter, why they can't support Johnny Depp, why they don't want to see Fantastic Beasts. And it's because J.K. Rowling is evidently a... Stop doing that. You're spamming my thing. J.K. Rowling is obviously a vicious transphobe. That's at least the vibe that people got from her tweet that came out today, voicing opinions, or it came out yesterday, rather, voicing opinions that she's been pretty strong on in the past and hasn't really shifted her opinion. That's one thing admirable about her. She doesn't back down to the mob. This was the article that she shared. It said absurdity. It's from the Times in the UK. There's an article talking about how police have been criticized for saying they will record rapes by offenders with male genitalia as being committed by a woman. It gets you into the whole trans conversation. Basically, I think whatever you legally are, like what you actually are, that's going to be on your arrest record, whatever's on your ID, I think. I don't really know how it works, but basically they're really worried about offending the rapers in the UK, and so the police have to use the preferred pronouns of these assholes, and that's a whole bag of hammers to get into, but this was her just comment on the article. She said, "War is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength, the penised individual who raped you is a woman." It's basically just saying, the world's fucking backwards right now, and you can disagree with her stance on trans. I know, according to the Dave Chappelle special, she's what you call a TERF, trans exclusionary radical feminist, and I believe she's acknowledged that that's her position, that she goes by that title, like not that title, but she fits into that group, I guess. And so this isn't anything new, but this, of course, got people talking, because we're not allowed to have differing opinions, especially when it comes to things like this. And so, people are hating her for this. And I found it really interesting that they still dropped the trailer today. I know it probably had been scheduled for a while, and they weren't going to change their plans just because this controversy came out. But J.K. Rowling was trending before the trailer even dropped. It makes you wonder if they kind of did it on purpose to get the conversation going times 10, because people would have been talking about it with just the trailer. But now you add this controversy on top of it, which, like I said, that's not even a controversial statement. I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole. But she's allowed to have that opinion. That being said, you're also allowed to disagree with that opinion, but you have to realize that when you're doing that, at the end of the day, you're actually helping, because even though in your mind it's for bad reasons, the old saying of no such thing as bad publicity, that's actually a real thing, and we're seeing it play out today. I can't even imagine how many times that trailer was viewed just because it kept popping up, because people kept talking about J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter, and Johnny Depp. And so, yeah, that's the Harry Potter thing. That's why that was trending. The next trending film topic on the internet was actually mostly yesterday. It obviously was still going on today. And after I get through these three, I didn't want to really do it on the J.K. Rowling one, because it's not specifically related to the film. It's people are just saying this is why they can't support her and disappointed and everything like that. But I do want to read some of the tweets about these other topics, if I can. I haven't. We'll have to see if my computer wants to work. But the next trending topic, and like I said, this started yesterday. This is hashtag recast T'Challa. This is from MovieWeb. Hashtag recast T'Challa trends as fans campaign for a new Black Panther. Many fans believe that recasting T'Challa with another actor would be a great way of honoring Chadwick Boseman, based on the late actor's own words. Following last year's tragic passing of Chadwick Boseman, can you imagine anyone else in the role of T'Challa in the Black Panther movies? While this is impossible for many Marvel fans, there are others who believe that this needs to happen. A social media campaign calling for the potential recasting has picked up enough steam to get the hashtag recast T'Challa, holy shit, trending on Twitter. A petition has also been launched on change.org demanding the recasting. People want to see the series go on. It always sucks when you have a death like this. It reminds me a lot of when Paul Walker died. And so they could go that route. They could write T'Challa out, which is what I think they've kind of hinted at that they're doing, or they've said that they're doing. I know after he died, they came out and said we're never going to recast him. But then I think they backtracked that somewhere along the way. So right now, the fans are talking, no, go ahead, recast it, apparently based on his own words. He wanted to be recast, and or he didn't want to be recast, but he didn't feel like he owned the character or something to that effect. And in Marvel, we have seen them recast not the main character. I mean, I guess besides, actually, no, they did it with the Hulk. But there wasn't as much power behind the first Incredible Hulk movie as there was the first Black Panther movie. So it's kind of hard to compare the two. They haven't had to recast a role of that significance. They never recast Iron Man or Captain America. And like I said, when the Hulk thing went down, the Marvel movies are not at all on the level that they were as far as box office, ratings, overall fan love with everything. They never had to recast a major role like that. And a lot of the conversation, and I don't know if this came from actual plans that they were doing or how this got out there, but the thought was they were going to not recast him. They were going to write him off in a way, and then they were going to make Shuri the main character. Letitia Wright, I think. Is that who that is? Oh, and this is still trending, or not trending, but it's still a popular topic. It says 40 tweets in the last hour. Everybody's, putting their picks on who they want to recast. But the other reason why this conversation comes up is because they don't want... Is it Letitia Wright? I better look that up. That sounds right to me. I just talked about this on the show the other night. Yeah, Letitia Wright. People don't want her leading the movie now because they want her out of the movie. They want her recast also. So that's another thing that's fueling this conversation, is because they want King T'Challa first off. And And I think that's because the alternative was this was now going to be a Shuri movie. Shuri, I don't know, whatever it is. And they were not okay. They're not okay with that because she's allegedly anti-vax or something, which is interesting. And I said this the other night when I was talking about it too. But the amount of hate that she's garnered off of that, people have totally forgotten that she was involved in a very serious onset injury in the making of this movie. And at the time, I can't remember when in the timeline that lined up with her anti-vax position. God, I need to get a new fucking mic stand. Try to put it here so I don't fuck with it. But I made the joke the other night, like if Helena Hutchins would have been an anti-vaxxer, Alec Baldwin would be in a lot better shape right now, I think, because this is like the worst position you could take. They're equating you to being like Nazis or something to that effect just because you have different opinions on how we should be made to be made to handle certain situations. And that's another rabbit hole I don't want to go down. COVID and trans both coming up back to back on a movie show seems weird, but woke societal, I don't know what you even want to call them, but these things, they've now leaked into every facet of our culture. You can't even just have a movie show without mentioning these things because you want to talk about what people are talking about, and this is what it is. So that's fascinating in it of itself. But here was some of the tweets, some of the top tweets. Yulon Noel, someone just says recast T'Challa because it's not like Marvel Studios hasn't recasted an actor before. And it shows Terrence Howard and Edward Norton. Those are different levels of characters, and in the movies when those recasting took place were nothing like they've been before. And that they have done that in other movies before. The Dark Knight movies, there was some recasting, but we're not talking about the main character, the lead of the movie. I can't think of a movie that has had, and they missed Zachary Levi. They should have put him on that picture too. But they haven't had they haven't had to recast Spider-Man, Captain America, any of these characters. Do people forget how big that movie was and what that movie meant to people? This is not the same thing. You cannot compare this to The Incredible Hulk. At least in my mind, it doesn't compute. More people sharing this article. It says, I hate to be that guy, but now would be the perfect time to recast T'Challa with variants being introduced and such. And that's true. And that's another reason why people are talking about this, not just because of Letitia Wright, but because with Spider-Man coming out, everybody's kind of wondering what the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe looks like. And so this is coming up. Some people are just posting that. They're not even posting. I guess there's not as many people that were posting their opinions as I thought. Someone has Jaden Smith on here. There's a couple of others, which I don't... Can he act? I don't think he can act. Yeah, more people just talking about the hashtag in and of itself instead of actually giving their suggestions like they were yesterday. So that's kind of disappointing because that's what I was curious to see. But the other thing is, I don't think they should recast him. And I'd be okay if they did. I'm not going to care either way. They could either go the Fast and Furious route where they write him out, like I said, or if they could get the families okay on it, and, I don't know if the fans would totally come around on it, but they don't need him here. People forget the technology that we have with films nowadays. I know everybody raised a giant fuss, and it wasn't just because it was weird. People called it disrespectful and different stuff like that when they used AI to replicate Anthony Bourdain's voice for a documentary, even though it was only like 30 seconds of talking or something like that. And I saw that, and I thought, wow, this is crazy. This deepfake shit's getting really cool. This is opening up the door for the future of technology and in filmmaking and everything like this. But a lot of people totally flipped out about it and didn't like it at all, and so I imagine it'd be the same thing here. Which, that's weird that they would rather have someone else take the role than just use the recordings that they have of him to keep the character alive. You know, they brought back a guy that's been dead for like 20 years or something in Star Wars Rogue One. They've made, you know, actors look a lot younger, and it looks way better than it used to be. Whether we're talking about, you know, they even did it in the MCU with Iron Man and Michael Douglas. They've de-aged, I think is what they call it. They've done that a lot. And so they could do that, but you know, it's the same people who probably don't want to go see the Tupac hologram concert, which I wouldn't want to go see that either, and you know, unless it was free. I don't think that should be like a headline night on Coachella or something like that. But it's fun and it's cool, and if they can do it and actually capture the spirit, which that's the problem, is they're probably going to have a hard time doing that. I imagine. I don't know. I think that they could do it. The visual effects of Marvel are the best in any movies. I mean, that's one thing, regardless if you like those movies or not. You can't really knock their visual effects. They're top of the line for sure. And so that's my thoughts on it. If you're going to recast him. I don't really care. You could go the Fast and Furious route, or you could just keep it going. These movies are hundreds of $millions to make anyways. Just direct. You don't got to pay a big star now, even though you'll give his family some money and stuff like that, which is why this is better than recasting him, I think. Not a popular opinion, but, you know, I actually, when I was reading through those Twitter things yesterday, I actually didn't see a lot of people talking about that. It wasn't coming up, which is kind of surprising because I feel like I'm always seeing stuff about holograms in music. There was a Ronnie James Dio one. I think Tupac's obviously the one that always comes up a lot, and for some reason the conversation about this hasn't shifted to let's just have him keep doing it like they did with Rogue One or Anthony Bourdain. And yeah, interesting. And the other movie that's of hot topic tonight on Twitter, and this, people have been talking about this for the past 6 months pretty consistently every day, but it sparked back up to the point of trending today because the premiere of Spider-Man No Way Home happened tonight, and with that comes the first critic reactions. They're allowed to post them tomorrow morning, I think, so a lot of people are anticipating that. A lot of people are talking about how they're going to avoid spoilers. There's a lot of reasons why people are talking about this movie, and this was another one like Harry Potter where it was trending under 4 different phrases or something like that. Toby was trending, Andrew and Toby was trending, Spider-Man No Way Home was trending, and there was a couple others, but unlike Harry Potter, it wasn't because of controversy or different aspects of what people were talking about. It's all over overall excitement for this movie. And, you know, I was talking the other night about the most tweeted about movies of the year, and they had, I think it was The Batman as number 1, and I said they put this list out way too early. There's no way this isn't going to be the most talked about movie, and I think that's right, because the movie hasn't even come out yet, and the anticipation is built so much, and the amount of people that get to see it tonight is really nothing compared to what it's going to look like this weekend. Usually I could trust people not to spoil shit, but I don't really care at this point. They haven't kept the secrets really well anyways, which might have been intentional. They might have been intentionally creating hype for this movie. But that's the other trending topic. We had 3 big movie stories trending today. There was actually another movie story that was trending, but it didn't last very long. Yeah, number 2, hashtag Spider-Man No Way Home. But they apparently announced that they're going to make a Mega Man movie, which was a video game. I looked it up, but I knew nothing about it, and it wasn't talked about for very long. It kind of went up. There was articles from like The Verge, I think, and then it went away. People came back to talking about Spider-Man. So 3 big movies, all franchise films: Black Panther, Harry Potter, and Spider-Man. Let's see some of the top tweets right now. Hashtag Spider-Man No Way Home. or not top tweets, but just what people are saying right now. It's a lot of memes and things like that. Wikipedia's already spoiling it, evidently, which means somebody's going on Wikipedia and editing it. Apparently, it's at 100% right now on Rotten Tomatoes. Only 13 reviews in. Let's see. This got a 70 on Metascore. Yeah, people are talking about just kind of what the ratings are looking like. It's kind of funny to watch them kind of come in real time. And yeah, very, very exciting stuff. I cannot wait for Spider-Man No Way Home. And speaking of which, I'm not going to do Midnight Movie Talk on that day, on Thursday night. I'm actually just going to do a spoiler show after I get home from the movie. So it might still be around this time because we haven't decided when we're going yet. But much like I've been doing with the Hawkeye show, I'm just going to come on and just barf all the things I can remember about the movie just into the microphone. And I do apologize. I need to learn how to hold this fucker still or get a new stand or something. So I'll move on to the other topics of the day. And there was a few. As I said, I think we're going to get a lot more throughout the week. I think more stuff is going to drop just because when there's a blockbuster coming out, people capitalize on this. Here's from Screen Rant. This says, Kingsman 3 begins filming in September of 2022. While promoting The King's Man, Matthew Vaughn confirms that Kingsman 3 will begin filming in September 2022 and will wrap up Eggsy's story. So I think they've speculated about that before, that they were going to cap it as a trilogy, but they are going on with other spin-offs. I think Channing Tatum's on board for the Statesman. So this franchise isn't done anytime soon. Here's a little bit of that article. Filming on Kingsman 3 is set to begin in September 2022, according to the film's director. Based on the comic by Mark Millar, the Kingsman film franchise started in 2015 with Kingsman: The Secret Service and was followed by 2017's Kingsman: The Golden Circle, with the two becoming box office hits. The latest film is a prequel titled The King's Man, which is set to open on December 22nd, 2022, after being delayed for 2 years. And a couple of things about that. It is kind of interesting. I mean, we were talking about the box office yesterday, and so you kind of forget that standards are different for different genres, different movie budgets, things like that. The two becoming box office hits, when I hear that, I think of massive successes. And I think combined, they still haven't cracked 200 million. Maybe that's just the domestic number. I'm not sure, but I was looking at it earlier. And I just think that these movies probably have really big budgets, not only because of the cast, but because they're action pieces. But then again, they do keep making them, and they have big plans for this franchise. But I haven't seen a whole lot of growth in the numbers as far as like the number of fans. And obviously this film was delayed because of COVID and some other things, and so it lost some of the steam. But I think you're going to have the same people going back to each one of these movies. I don't think you're really going to grow your audience at all. But they've got a big enough niche crowd that they're going to be able to keep pumping them out. And what's the guy? Matthew Vaughn really found his stride with this franchise. This is his avatar, I think, because his other bigger ones, he did Kick-Ass, which was this awesome, gritty, kind of low budget, weirdo superhero movie. Then he got to do the big budget superhero movie with X-Men First Class, and Kick-Ass was more, kind of ultra violent and crazy, off the wall, funny. First Class was just a straightforward, big budget, really good superhero movie. And this Kingsman world is a perfect blending of the two in my mind. And obviously he's involved in it. I think he's directing every single one of these movies, spinoffs included. And it's exciting, I think, that they announced that this is finally going to start filming. And I suspect that if it wasn't for the whole shutdown and everything, this movie would have been out by now, because you want to keep them kind of together. We're now more than 6 years since the last one came out. Stop. I need to turn those comments off. 6 years since the first one came out, so they got to do something to kind of recapture the numbers and everything like that. But I don't know. I'm excited about it. A lot of people are excited about it. And this wasn't in the form of like an announcement. I think somebody asked him in an interview, and he said, "Oh yeah, we're doing it in September," or something like that is what happened. So that wasn't a trending story today, even though, it probably should have been. All right, you lost your comment privileges. I'm gonna have to turn them off. All right. Sorry, I don't know why you guys always feel the need to do that. Fucking bots. But yeah, there wasn't as much hype around that announcement coming out. Partially because it's not that significant of an announcement. They already announced that they were doing this movie. Now we just kind of get a timeline of when we can expect it. But today it got overshadowed by the Harry Potter talk and the Black Panther and Spider-Man talk. So here's another story. Ben Affleck and Ana de Armas' new movie heading straight to streaming. I talked about this the other night, too, on the top 10 Twitter movies, or the top 10 tweeted about movies of last year. That night I talked about this because at that time, this movie was being pulled from the release schedule. They've now followed up that story, so let's rehash the whole thing. This is from Screen Rant. Ben Affleck and Ana de Armas' new movie heading straight to streaming. The erotic thriller Deep Water, starring Ben Affleck and Ana de Armas, probably saying that wrong, was pulled from the release schedule and will now go straight to streaming. Deep Water, the psychological erotic thriller starring Ben Affleck and Ana de Armas, is skipping theaters and going straight to streaming. The latest film from Fatal Attraction director Adrian Lyne, and his first since 2002's Unfaithful, sees Affleck and de Armas as a married couple that has fallen out of love and who begin to play mind games with one another. The film was originally set for release in November 2020 before being delayed to the COVID-19 pandemic, and was delayed more times until it was pulled from the theatrical release schedule less than a week ago. And as we talked about on, I think that was Saturday or Sunday, It had been bumped already. It was actually supposed to come out around now, I think. It was going to be going up against, need to take better notes. It was going to be going up against Eternals and Ghostbusters. It was supposed to come out around that time, and then they bumped it to January, where it would be going up against Sesame Street and Scream, it looks like, and Spider-Man would still be in theaters at the time too. But they took then they took it off. We didn't know when it was going to come out, and I said it's because I don't think anybody's going to go see this thing right now. And I talked about my thoughts on the box office in general. I don't think people are going to waste their money on things like this. I think right now streaming's the better option for all these movies because people are more limited now on what they can spend at the movie theater just because of the whole economy shit. And so you're not going to necessarily go see a movie like this where you might watch it if it's on the streaming service. I don't want to totally rehash what I went over the other night. But yeah, and the other thing people were talking about, apparently these two guys are dating in real life and just broke up. And that apparently had something to do with this. I don't think that the studio gives a shit about that. I don't think they're going to pull the release if they're really planning on it or really looking forward to it if they think there's some real money to be made. I think it's the exact opposite. And with these psychological thrillers, describing it as a psychological erotic thriller is interesting, but you never know what you're going to get with one of these. It could end up being awesome. I think of the movie The Gift, but still nobody went to see that. It had good word of mouth where people kept going back, but it didn't make a ton of money just because those movies don't make a ton of money. And right now, I mean, we talked about the whole thing yesterday with West Side Story bombing, only making $10.5 million. Depending on how much you put into a movie, you're not going to want to take that chance. And January's hard anyways because it's typically where all the shit movies land. At least that's how it used to be. Usually the movies that make all the money in the beginning of the year are actually movies that came out at the end of the previous year and just have kind of award season legs. Well, it doesn't seem like we're going to have a whole lot of that. I think it's going to be blockbuster season all the way up until the blockbusters start next year. Like Spider-Man, Matrix, and then Scream could be considered a blockbuster. Halloween did well, even with going to streaming right away. But obviously, the original Halloween, when it first came back, the original sequel, I guess I should say, 2018, that the revamped horror thing, returning to these classic horror stories, brings up, a certain amount of nostalgia where you could have a smash hit like It or, like Halloween. And so we might see that with this newest Scream installment. So we could be looking at a blockbuster there too. Plus, if the economy takes a turn for the better, or if they decide to give us more money, then people are going to be spending it more at the movie theaters. And so I think it's probably best to not worry about losing money on this one, instead just playing it safe, and they probably cut some deal. This says, according to Deadline, Deepwater is reportedly skipping its theatrical window in favor of streaming, with Hulu getting the domestic distribution while Amazon gets the international streaming rights. No streaming release date has been set for the film. The news also comes on the same day that Disney and New Regency, the production company behind Deepwater, renewed their distribution deal. So I just read that last part because I couldn't remember where it said it was going. Not Peacock, not Disney Plus, obviously not Disney Plus, but Hulu's a good spot for it. I don't know how many of these straight-to-streaming movies they've had. I know they have some pretty awesome-looking TV shows coming out as far as their own releases. So, yeah, if this sucks, it's really no harm for them. But that's about it. I figured I'd do 45 minutes again tonight since I'm running a little late. Here's just one last thing I wanted to talk about. This is from Variety. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, obviously, because it's way too big. But this is just a fun thing to think about, and I like reading about things like this. This is from Matt Donnelly. Blacklist 2021 features Kanye West and Shania Twain biopics. Wild Mickey Rourke masked singer adventure. So the Blacklist comes out every year. I turned the comments off. How is that still happening? Comes out every year. This is all the movies that were kind of rejected. Somebody pitched them, or they were in some kind of early stage of production and they just didn't go anywhere. And this is a huge long article you can read, and you can actually go to the Blacklist and it gives you more details on all these films. But I'm not going to do that. I just want to talk about a few of them very briefly. The Blacklist, an annual ranking of Hollywood's best unproduced screenplays, has unleashed its 2021 edition. A smattering of delicious pop biopics, true crime, and even a psychodrama about Mickey Rourke appearing on The Masked Singer. Founded in 2005 by Franklin Leonard, the list surveys top studio and development executives, asking them to share their scripts they adored but haven't yet greenlit. The rankings are then cross-referenced, and popularity is calculated by the frequency of a title. The frequency a title appears. The top script this year's list was something called Cauliflower. It's described as an intense drama from writer Daniel Jackson. Under the cruel guidance of a mysterious coach, an ambitious high school wrestler struggles to become state champion while battling a bizarre infection in his ear that both makes him dominant in his sport and threatens his sanity. The synopsis reads, the script was mentioned 32 times across the rankings. Jackson is rep by UTA, blah, blah, blah. So if you're in the movie business and that sounds interesting to you, that was the top one. And as I said, it was mentioned 32 times, which to me doesn't seem like a lot. I don't know how these circles work. But it shows you how little how small a part of the movie world this actually is, but it is fun to look at. It just shows you how much movies are pitched every year. But some of the other ones I scrolled through kind of quickly. I'll read the next paragraph here because it describes a couple of the ones that I thought were interesting. It says, other notable titles include The Villain, which exposes the rise and fall of notorious pharma bro Martin Shkreli. I don't know, the asshole that hiked up the EpiPens. That was by Andrew Ferguson, Thomas Aguilar, and Michael. That one was by Andy Ferguson. Sorry, I can't read. The next one was called The College Dropout by Thomas Aguilar, which is a biopic about Kanye West. We'll get that eventually. It might not be this version of it, but eventually there will be a Kanye West biopic. Obviously, that goes without saying. And then a biopic by Jessica Welsh of Canadian country singer Shania Twain. The next one, our favorite entry by far, is The Masked Singer from writers Mike Jones and Nicholas Sherman. In the script, Oscar nominee and comeback kid Mickey Rourke loses his mind after he's forced to take a gig on television's highest-rated show, The Masked Singer. And I'm okay if they never make that movie. I am perfectly fine with this existing like it is for the rest of the time. You remember they almost made a movie about Mickey Rourke going on The Masked Singer and going crazy? Because I hate that show, and I've never actually watched it, but the show annoys me whenever it pops up, and I think it's funny that somebody actually tried pitching this as a movie. There was also a Michael Bay biopic that was in talks, and I think if anyone does a Michael Bay biopic, Michael Bay should do a Michael Bay biopic, because that would just be awesome. And I don't know. I can't remember who was attached with that. I think it'd be hard to make a movie about him without making fun of him. I don't know if you'd get him to sign on to anything that's going to, like, for him to even just produce it or something, if it's going to dive that far into, I mean, I don't know much about the dude. I know we had a breakdown once, but the Pharma Bro one, I think that'll happen too. They've just got to find the right time to put these movies out. Because when I was reading about that one, it reminded me of The Silk Road, the Tiller Russell movie about the guy that created the internet drug trade. And that was a fairly decent movie. I saw the screener of it, so it was a little different by the time it came out. And it's been a while since I saw it. But that was, of interest just because of the conversation, the news of today versus how fast as internet things kind of come up. And the Pharma Bro story is just similar to that, as far as, I guess, just peeling a layer back and viewing the inside of how certain things and trends work. And obviously with a Pharma Bro movie, you're going to go into the whole big pharma. So then we're going to talk about the real world implications of the opioid crisis and things like that. So a lot of cool stuff from the Blacklist. We'll probably eventually see some of these movies made, but hopefully never the Mickey Rourke one. That'll do it for tonight. Thanks for watching. Tomorrow night I will not be here at 11 doing the Midnight Movie Talk, because I will be here at 2 a.m. doing the Hawkeye spoilers. And yeah, come back and check that out tomorrow if you want. I think that's all I got. I need to go to bed. Please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye.